Michael Saylor has bet billions on Bitcoin and is winning. We go through MicroStrategy's genius flywheel strategy, whose Bitcoin position is now at a $4 billion profit. Will they soon join the S&P 500? Plus, we go over the reasons why people are so bullish on Bitcoin right now, why more women need to own Bitcoin, and why the perfect storm is brewing to take us straight to 100K. You're not going to want to miss this episode. Let's get into it. Welcome to the Friday, February 16th edition of the Bitcoin Daily Show. I'm Dante Cook, head of Swan Business. Here at Swan, we're on a mission to educate the world about Bitcoin. So please like this video and subscribe to the channel. And since we've started this show, we've had a number of people reach out to ask a lot of different questions about Bitcoin. How do I buy it? How do I set up my first wallet? How do I think about inheritance planning? If you have those questions, I will personally respond to your emails. If you send an email to daily@swanbitcoin.com, I'll answer your questions or connect you to the right team members who can. Again, we're here to help spread the mission about Bitcoin and do what's right for Bitcoin and Bitcoiners. No one can stop an idea whose time has come. Satoshi Nakamoto created a novel breakthrough in how we coordinate time, resources, and money across physical and digital space. The fact that this world-changing technology was created by someone who just literally walked away from it, how funny anyone, is unbelievable. But speaking about coordinating people across time and space, let this blow your mind. The Bitcoin halving is the first holiday where everyone in the world celebrates at the same time. Think about that. This global asset has liberated millions of people out of fiat debt and slavery all around the world. And just like Bitcoin has been a novel breakthrough for people all around the world, Caitlin Clark has fundamentally changed women's basketball and women's sports forever.
Here comes Clark. How will she go for history? There it is!
Her confidence, her style of play, her three-point shooting, her loyalty to Iowa's program has pushed the boundaries of what it means to be an elite athlete for women in sports. And you know what's a big hope of mine? It's that more women adopt Bitcoin. I have 3 daughters myself. The best female athletes in the world may only make a few $100,000 a year. So understanding financial literacy, understanding savings technology, and novel breakthroughs like Bitcoin are really important for women. And so you know what? If you're a female athlete out there and you want to learn about Bitcoin, again, we're putting ourselves out there at Swan to say we want to help you. We want to educate you. We want to help you get started with an asset like Bitcoin, because we believe that Bitcoin is for everyone. And with that, let's get into our show. MicroStrategy's Bitcoin profit sits at over $4 billion. Michael Saylor joined our favorite Bitcoiner on Wall Street, Charles Payne, to talk about how Bitcoin is transforming physical value into a digital world.
You know, Michael, I listened to a podcast that you're on recently. I know you do a lot of them, and which I think is great because you're reaching out to people, real folks out there. But there's something you said in this that really stuck out to me, and I want you to listen to it, but I want the audience to hear it as well. Let's play it.
Robert asked me on his show, what is money? I had never questioned what is money. And then we explored it together for many, many hours. and when I finished that exploration, my conclusion was money is economic energy.
Economic energy, what does that mean?
Yeah, it is the question of our time, Charles. And it's a question that I went most of my adult life without understanding. But economic energy is capital. Economic energy is wealth. And so if you think about the wealth in the world, there's maybe $900 trillion of it right now. And it's tied up in real estate, in stocks, in bonds, in currencies, collectibles, et cetera. The challenge is that that capital is analog capital from the 20th century, and Bitcoin represents the digital transformation of capital. And your chart you just showed with those ETFs shows that every day in the last 5 days, $481 million is flowing out of the analog world into the digital world. And what's going to drive Bitcoin is, in essence, the conversion of analog capital to digital capital. The killer use case is capital preservation and capital appreciation. And, the name of the show is making money. That's what everybody wants to do, and money is capital.
MicroStrategy's market cap would only need to rise another $3.7 billion for it to be eligible for the S&P 500. If MicroStrategy were to become an S&P 500 stock, global liquidity would flow into the asset, and by proxy, into Bitcoin. By now, we're all starting to understand the MicroStrategy flywheel. And if you don't, take a look at this hand-drawn sketch that I put together to help explain the concept. Forgive my chicken scratch. When MicroStrategy's enterprise value increases, its stock price follows, and it goes up. Then, MicroStrategy issues more common shares to accrue more cash. Then, MicroStrategy uses the sale proceeds or free cash flow from the business to buy more Bitcoin, which, when its price goes up, increases MicroStrategy's enterprise value. Rinse and repeat. The man has found a hack, and even though he's a billionaire, Michael Saylor still keeps receipts. Take a look back at this Wall Street Journal article that said he bet billions and lost. Think they were wrong. So why are people so bullish on Bitcoin right now? Well, like we told you late last year, a perfect storm is brewing for Bitcoin. We have Fed rate cuts on the horizon, the Bitcoin halving in April, and ETF demand that is far greater than I think anyone even predicted. As this chart shows, the prices reach levels that typically precede massive parabolic moves upward in Bitcoin's price. We haven't seen anything yet. Check out the Perfect Storm video that we produced back in December if you want to keep receipts on the calls that we made. Speaking of ETFs, we saw 478 million of inflows yesterday, and that's even with GBTC having over 175 million in outflows, its highest amount since February 1st. And yesterday, we had a surprise second place finisher, Bitwise, whose CIO Matt Hogan put out a tweet highlighting the supply-demand mismatch between ETF inflows and new Bitcoin being produced. As of a week ago, we've seen 49,877 Bitcoin purchased by the Bitcoin ETFs and only 6,107 Bitcoin produced. That's bullish. And not getting into any weird discussions about power laws, but Bitcoin's ETF flows are following the Pareto principle, which is the 80-20 rule, which means that 80% of the value comes from 20% of the participants. 80% of the dollars that have flowed into the ETFs have flowed to just two players, BlackRock and Fidelity. And if you zoom out and take a broader look at the ETF market as a whole, the new Bitcoin ETFs represent 14% of the new ETFs launched in January, but over 83% of the assets under management. That's a Pareto principle there. That's a power law. I think Wall Street calls Bitcoin a Ponzi or a tulip mania because it doesn't realize the Bitcoin doesn't operate like stocks. Money doesn't follow the Pareto principle. All value flows to the best money. And as Michael Saylor says, there is no second best money. Speaking of tulips, growers are actually using the heat from Bitcoin mining to heat their greenhouses and are growing tulips with it. And they say Bitcoin is bad for the environment. Meanwhile, you have groups like JP Morgan who are backing out of climate groups and backing away from ESG. As a matter of fact, ESG is having a bloodbath in the ETF market right now. ESG ETFs are closing faster than outdoor playgrounds during COVID, but for good reason this time. BlackRock's ESGU is the world's largest ESG ETF, and this year alone, it's seen almost $1 billion in outflows after shedding $9 billion last year. Let me wrap with a couple thoughts here. Some people in TradFi continue to be in disbelief about why they were wrong about Bitcoin, and instead of humbling themselves, they continue to double down on bad takes, like Bitcoin will only be worth $1 million if a ham sandwich is worth $1 million.
There is a scenario where the price of Bitcoin could go to $1 million, but it's not going to mean you're a millionaire if you own a Bitcoin. I mean, you're a millionaire. I mean, yeah, on paper, but there's a lot of millionaires in Zimbabwe. There are a lot of millionaires, in countries that have had hyperinflation. Venezuela has a lot of millionaires, but their millions don't buy anything. It's not going to go up in a real sense. If Bitcoin is $1 million, gold is probably going to be higher than that.
You think that gold? Hold on a second. Back up. That's an absurd statement. You think that if Bitcoin goes to $1 million,
that's hyperinflation. If a ham sandwich cost $1 million, what do you expect an ounce of gold to cost?
Let's just say that Bitcoin goes to $1 million. I don't expect an ounce of gold to be $1 million.
Well, no, I don't think Bitcoin is going to go to $1 million unless there's hyperinflation. I don't think that Bitcoin is going to trade up to $1 million on just pure people gambling on it. I just don't see it.
I don't have a lot of sage advice for you today other than don't shift. This is a funny clip and it's a little vulgar, but I think we should learn a little bit from David Portnoy and how we should admit when we're wrong and humble ourselves. The thing he should have done in the first place was not sell his Bitcoin, of course.
Bitcoin's at 52,000. God damn, I fucked myself with Bitcoin. God damn, I fucked myself with Bitcoin. It's just one of those things that I just fucked myself with. I'll never get over what I've done with Bitcoin. Just a total debacle. I have fucked myself so hard with Bitcoin. Barstool should have owned Bitcoin. The second I got Barstool back, I should have bought like 10 million of Barstool of Bitcoin. I'm so mad at myself about Bitcoin. I should be up like 75% in Bitcoin. I should be up 750 grand in Bitcoin instead of down. Dave.
Dave, it's never too late to transform those lettuce hands into diamond hands. We can get you a corporate treasury set up here at swan.com. Feel free to reach out. Here's my final thought for today. Be vulnerable. Admit when you're wrong. We're all wrong. We're all human. Be humble, stack sats, buy Bitcoin, and live generously. And with that, we're signing off. I'm Dante Cook with Swan.com. Don't refresh that price too much this weekend. Touch some grass, spend some time with some real people. Happy stacking.